Hello there. Apologies, this is about 11:45 at midnight, and I said I would do a little video just explaining why there's so many bird losses this year and last year, just devastating the pigeon racing. Just a little bit background. It's easy to blame all these things. It's the weather, it's birds of prey, it's this, it's that, the next thing. It's a combination of a few things, but the biggest factor I want to not just tell you what we're looking at, but just how it's come about as well. Just a little bit background. This will probably demonstrate exactly what the issue is, and I'll go on to explain a few more things. Just how we've got to where we are today. I was fortunate as a kid growing up, as a 6-year-old upwards. I was into every person in the villages, mining villages that kept birds. I was in there, every day, most days of the week. I was in someone different loft, or whether they kept British birds or foreign birds or budgies. I was in. When I look back at what I used to do then, I think no child would get away with that. Going into old men's sheds and sitting talking to them and helping them clean out and all the rest. It just wouldn't happen. Today. I was fortunate. I think in the era I grew up in the 70s. Way back then, none of these losses were the same as what we're getting today. And the other thing we didn't have was antibiotics. I used to go to all the pigeon boys, and they'd all have their little secrets and little things they used to do just to try to get an edge. But there was never the word antibiotics growing up, using them to sort birds' problems out, or try sort the birds' problems out. Antibiotics were really created in the 80s, and there's no been any real new ones since 87. So what we're working with is something that's been developed many years ago, and they haven't really changed, But just a little story, as an 18-year-old, this will explain a little bit about the immune system and just what happens under the word stress. As an 18-year-old sitting in an agricultural college doing avian and poultry, the microbiology lecturer came in with a pigeon in a basket. And he takes the pigeon out and he says, "We're going to find out what bacteria is growing in this bird's mouth." So he takes the bird out and he takes a swab and swabs inside the mouth, and he rubs it on a petri dish with growth medium. He puts the lid on it and he writes A with a black marker. Then he proceeds to walk around the lecture room with his pigeon tucked underneath his arm. And he goes, "Right, 10 minutes up. We'll find out what bacteria is growing in this bird's mouth." And I'm sitting there as an 18-year-old thinking, wait a minute, you did that 10 minutes ago. So he gets another swab and swabs inside the bird's mouth, rubs it on another petri dish with growth medium, puts the lid on it and writes B. He says, "Right, when you come back next week, these will have been incubated for 5 days, and we'll find out what bacteria we're looking at." So we come back the next week, and he gets the petri dish A out, and we get our textbooks out before computers, and he looks at, we look at it, and it's a bit blue and a bit green, and it's like, oh, Staphylococcus staph aureus, pretty common stuff. And then he brings out B, and it's like World War III, every colour of the rainbow you could think of. It's like, wait a minute, there's E. coli, there's salmonella. There was 12 different things we identified. Now, we thought that bird was relaxed, but the bird was stressed to the hilt, being tucked underneath the arm. And under that stress, everything in that body multiplied. Absolutely everything. Not just one thing, not just two things, but everything that was there. Now, that was 30 odd years ago, and that was basically before antibiotics, and there was 12 different things we discovered. The problem that we've got today is that the use and abuse of antibiotics has just destroyed the bird's immune system. Now, for those people who don't understand the immune system, it's very simple. I like to explain it like every bird is like a block of flats. It's got good tenants and it's got bad tenants. You've got different sized accommodation, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, bed sits, and say everybody's living together. That's good bacteria, bad bacteria. The problem is, under stress, everything multiplies, and what multiplies the quickest is what symptoms you see. Now, when you look at wiping the immune system out, an antibiotic, the word antibiotic means against life, and what you're doing is you're wiping out good bacteria and bad bacteria. It's like wiping out good tenants and bad tenants, but you don't know which ones you're wiping out. You can't specifically say, right, we're going to wipe out all the bad ones and keep the good ones. It doesn't work like that. And again, when it comes to the tenants, the good and bad bacteria, you can't have empty accommodation. You just can't have a void in the bird. So something has to come back into that bird that from what was taken out. And they say, again, you don't know if it's good or bad bacteria. And you don't know if it's coming from the body and multiplying from the body or if it's coming from external sources. And you don't know what levels are going to come in either. And the sad fact is, over the years, the use and abuse of antibiotics have wiped the immune system out. Every time you do it, it just wipes the immune system out. You don't know how much you're wiping out. You don't know what's coming back in. And we've allowed things in these birds that should never ever been there in the first place. And they're sitting there as good tenants and bad tenants, just waiting for things to happen under stress. You've got your respiratory issues, you've got your E. coli, salmonella, streptococcus, you've got all these things going on in every bird. Cocci as well. Cocci is one of these things that it's an organism that senses stress. And when it senses stress, it says to itself, this host is going to die. So it starts to strip the nutrients out of the food to produce eggs to get it out of that bird into another host. And so that's why your birds get thinner and thinner and thinner. And so cocci is everywhere. You know, it's in the environment. And it's just one of these things that under stress. But cocci doesn't change the droppings. What changes the droppings is that under stress, that cocci creates itself, causes other things to multiply, and that's what starts to change your droppings. So it's not, you know, people will see a picture and say, oh, that's cocci you've got there. No, you can't tell by a picture. I've seen birds dying of cocci and their droppings don't change. Their droppings don't change at all, but it's when all the secondaries start to multiply, that's when your droppings change. Now you're looking at all these things that people vaccinate for. I always say, if you have to vaccinate for something by law, do it, but only do it once. You're putting something foreign into that body to create a reaction, and quite often the stress of that causes other things to multiply as well. So the other things that people are putting in vaccinating for, once you put in a bird, you can't take it out, you know, and your herpes and all these other things, circovirus, you're vaccinating for all these things, and once you put it in, it's going to create a reaction. The bird's got it. And you put a bird in a basket, it's going to spread around to other birds as well. That's how things are picked up. When the space it, we look back at that bird for 10 minutes being held under stress. You put a bird in a basket, it's a lot longer than 10 minutes under stress. So what we're looking at is, when you say to yourself, that bird doesn't look right, I'm not going to put that to the race. I've got news for you. Every single bird you put to the race has got the exact same things going on. Adults, youngsters, everything. People say, oh, my other loft's 100 yards away. It doesn't matter. You're walking back and forward. You're taking potentially things into that shed from the other shed. Every bird's got the same issues going on, and they all react differently to stress. But all the losses, it's just horrendous. When I go back to that pigeon, you're saying, right, it doesn't look right, I'm not putting it to the race. Every single bird's got the exact same thing going on. And under stress, the potential for things to multiply. Go back to the bird for 10 minutes under stress. You imagine these birds have got all these things going on, and under stress for a few hours, excuse me, in a basket. Everything's multiplying. The bird's not well, it's disorientated, it's dizzy. You imagine if you were feeling delirious or not well, you wouldn't want to go anywhere, never mind fly anywhere. So when the trap's open, you'll never see it again. Okay, the weather might have a bit to do with it. You know, the stress is the magic thing that causes all the issues. And I say, there's so many things out there this year. You know, I'm fortunate I deal with people from all over the country, big poultry farms to people keeping all types of birds, pigeons, everything. And you see patterns. And there's things out there that have not been there for a long time or are severe. You're looking at ILT, infectious laryngeal tracheitis. It's a respiratory issue. A lot of the poultry farms have had issues over the years with that. Ireland, Northern Ireland's really bad, but just now there's parts of the UK the same. Now, it's not a notifiable disease, but it will cause havoc. You know, mortality, you know, loss of production, performance. And these are things that are out there. Avian flu's still out and about there. And these don't change your dropping straight away. Respiratory doesn't change your dropping straight away, but it's once other stress comes in. So when we're putting these birds in the basket and there's any illness at all, they're not coming home. You know, the ones that are healthier, they'll get home, but they're not right. And the sad fact is that unless we start looking at what we're doing and look at the antibiotics, every single time you put an antibiotic over a bird, you wipe good and bad out. And you try to spend money building these things up again. It doesn't work like that. You can't put something in the bird that wasn't there in the first place. That's the problem. And I say, until we start looking at these things, you're going nowhere, and you're going to lose more and more people to pigeons, because why would you want to put birds in knowing you're going to lose them? It just doesn't make sense. I'm fortunate that the amount of customers I've had in the last year has been phenomenal. And, I've tried to explain this to people about, what causes these birds to not come home. And I've had so many people who have come on board and made such a difference. And the one word is stress. A lot of the guys that are using my stuff, stress reducer, general conditioner, they virtually lose no birds the whole season. And that's great to see. All the birds are coming home together. When your birds are tip-top, you should have no issues. Weather conditions, birds of prey, okay, you're going to get a little effect, but not the same way. But if you've got a bird that's not right, bang, it's down, or you'll never see it again. The amount of people that are doing the racing, they're winning a few races, and all of a sudden, bang, their birds go down. All these birds have the potential to have health issues. And I say, what we do is we don't take a single thing out your bird. It's not like an antibiotic. We can't say, right, we're going to take the good out, we're going to take the bad out, we're going to take, this out, that out, and put back in just nothing but good. We can't do that. But the way we work with homeopathy is that we look at specific conditions, and like every human, it's got a fingerprint, and no two fingerprints are the same in the world. You're talking every virus and bacteria has a frequency. And what we aim to do is to switch the frequency on for that specific condition. So once you've switched it on, it's no longer an issue. If you switch something on and it's not there, it's not giving it to it, but the frequency is there. So if it comes across it in the future, then it's going to be switched on, so it shouldn't be an issue. So, the last year I had 3 guys phone me up and complained because there had too many birds left at the end of the season. The story was, one chap was like, I breed 70 to 80 birds, and I'm usually left with 20 to 30 birds left of the season. I'm sitting with 70 odd birds. What do I do with them all? What do you mean, what do you do them all? Give them away to your friends, pick the best ones, sell the rest of them on. But the fact you've got the choice is fantastic. But it's all about birds being relaxed in the baskets. And the beauty of the stress reducer, we've now put that into every single product we have as standard. And what you'll find is the birds will relax within a day to 2 days. The birds will chill out, but they'll also fly the skies out. But when they're in the baskets, they don't have the same issue of being stressed out. It really isn't rocket science. And I say, we have to look at what we're doing and the way we're doing it and get it sorted. It's keeping things simple. And it really, really, I can't emphasize enough, it really is that simple. The birds aren't well, they're disorientated. You'll never see them again when the trap's open. Never see them again. Or if they do eventually make themselves back, great. But, we've got to wise up and just look at what we're doing. We're spending a fortune on antibiotics, and it's scary. It's scary how readily available they are. And people don't realise, once the antibiotic's through the bird, it doesn't just disappear. It goes into the environment. It goes into the water courses. We've got amphibians that aren't breeding properly because they're being affected by antibiotics. And we're in that same environment, that we're putting these antibiotics into. If you can't do without antibiotics, there's no point. It's not a healthy bird. It's a propped up bird. You show me somebody that's used antibiotics and show me a bird that's older than 2 or 3 years. You'll not see them. You'll not see them. You're destroying the immune system. Simple as that. We need to look at what we're doing and just get ourselves sorted out. I say, any issues at all, any questions, give me a call, drop me a line. I'm happy to have a chat with anybody and get this sorted out. But there is alternatives out there, and I'm so grateful for the guys that are coming back after being on my stuff, and the results are getting fantastic. I say, I've been doing this for 22 years, and I have people still speaking to me without swearing. We've got, between the team, the vets we've got, and myself, we've got over 100 years experience with homeopathy and natural products. We're developing new things all the time, which is great. And it's all about we're working with people. And if we don't work with each other, we're going to have nothing. We can help you if we talk, but if you don't talk, we can't help you. I hope that explains a little bit. I say it's late tonight, and they say I just really thought I'd have to get something out of here, because if I didn't today, it would be a good few days before I'd be able to try and do something. So look after yourselves, guys, and say any issues at all, any issues health-wise, give me a buzz, with the birds that is, and we'll look forward to getting better results for you and stop these bird losses. Cheers now.